live. Shouts out to everybody that's will be checking in or will be checking in later. It is Community Beacon. See the brother back there just fooling with stuff throughout the entire time. But we're here. We spent about 10 to 15 minutes trying to figure out what's going on. I think a lot of us are kind of just getting our bearings back together after Hurricane Milton. There's the timestamp, the date stamp. Hurricane Milton was a couple days ago. So if you're checking in with us, that means that you are blessed. You have electricity, you have lights, you have internet, so on and so forth. So blessings to you all. I am Michael Seville, your real estate guy here in Palm Beach County. And of course, on the other side of the screen, we got my brother from another mother, the incomparable Joel Simmons. So we definitely appreciate you all for coming and checking in. It's been a busy week, as the brother said before we got online, and I would imagine it has been for everyone. People preparing for the storm, people cleaning up after the storm, or attempting to clean up after the storm, and almost, at this point in time, especially with the social media spotlight on it, I'm just through. When you just feel like I'm just through with something, like this is one of those top things that I'm just through with. But definitely have our thoughts, at least to those that were extremely affected by it. I saw, a lot of things going on the west coast of Florida. They had already came through that hurricane with Helena, and then here came Milton, a couple weeks later, some weeks later, and the cleaning hadn't even been done for the first part. So, definitely thoughts and prayers are going out for them. This brother was working it. And so I'm glad he had a chance to come in and still be as consistent as he normally is, so we can get into this show and episode. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
Hey man, what's happening? I definitely appreciate what you just said right there. You know, shout out to all of those that were gravely affected. I know that we visited a few communities that were absolutely destroyed um, during Hurricane Milton. Man, this was unprecedented. The amount of tornadoes that came through was unprecedented. I mean, this was like the Bible Belt hurricane, tornado alley type of stuff, Wizard of Oz type of stuff that was going on. I have some photos of, you know, tornadoes larger than a football field, at least from my perspective, from where I was standing at while we were out there, and storm chasers just like passing by on the streets. It's like, this is unreal. We're talking about Florida. This is Florida, y'all. This is not home of the tornado. It's home of the hurricane. We have a team named after the storm. The hurricanes. It's like not the tornadoes. So for us to get whatever it was, 100, 130, whatever it was, tornadoes to run through and pillage our community and the people of Florida was something else. And yet and still, thank God, there was a lot of life lost. Thank God it wasn't more. So definitely grateful. And to y'all who are able to see this, I'm glad to have you still here with us. And for those that did not make it, our prayers and thoughts are going out to to you, the family members, and for those that are bereaved.
Yeah, we actually had one on the other side, in the community on the other side of the golf course. The actual tornado, brand new community avenue where we shot. If you all look at our videos, at the beginning of our photo shoot, that community that we shot in front of, that our pictures of Joel, our intro video, that community was heavily affected. They had a lot of roofs torn off. Went through Palm Beach Gardens, went through Loxahatchee, Royal Palm, and I heard Wellington
Wellington.
also. Yeah, got it really bad. So I saw cars flipped over. I saw a 30-foot container sitting on top of a house, And I said, man, this can't be real. This has to be AI generated. And so I put it in Chat GPT, was like, is this AI generated or is this real? And they said it was real, a 30-foot container sitting on the roof of a house. I thought that was it, it was incredible. So, it had me thinking as well is that like for a tornado or just Mother Nature or these tragedies, it's almost like it's hard to prepare for it. I saw accordion shutters just ripped off of the windows. Right? I saw someone who's decided, you would think smartly so, to put their brand new car inside of the garage, and that car inside the garage took more damage than the cars that were outside of the garage. So
Mm.
cars flipped over, cars moved into garages that didn't, that were outside. I seen trucks flipped over, so it was definitely devastating. I appreciate the people who came in afterwards, the emergency workers. Our lights went off for some time, and they got them back up and running sooner than usual. So, shouts out to everyone who kind of sprung into action, shortly thereafter. So we definitely appreciate that. Um, yeah, so there's 6 minutes of talking and talking about the hurricane, and then we definitely appreciate it. Thank God, a lot, everyone that I know personally, you know, didn't really catch the terrible, terrible end of it, But there is help out there. If you want any information on that, definitely give it, you can email me or call me because I gotten a lot of information in regards to what people should do after the storm if you've been heavily affected and who to turn to, so on and so forth. So if you want that information, I'm here for you as well.
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Let's get
Let's
into
get it.
the show. Let's get into the show. So heartfelt reflections, what's weighing on you today? And so me and the brother were kind of discussing, it being as busy as it was, and like I said, thankful for that he's able to get some time to jump on, really get home and jump on. My thought process was going through this morning was like, here's what I know about humans. Here's what I know about us.
Here's
Is
what you
that
know about humans, huh?
yeah, yeah. Here's what I know
Oh
about.
man, that's where we starting off. He went to the human word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Woo! All right, okay, all right.
Here,
I'm gonna get
here,
ready for
here,
this one. Buckle up,
here-
y'all.
here's what I know about people. Let me get back on the screen. Here's what I know about people is that we are motivated by a couple of factors. And one of them is fear. Humans are motivated by fear. And the second one is, and probably the first one really, is self interest. People are motivated by self interest.
What's in
And
it for
then
me?
what's in it for me? I mean, and this is, you got to know that this is happening. Like, and for most people on a very subconscious level, this self interest is happening. People are motivated by food, hunger. When you're hungry, it's surprising what you'll do. And people are motivated by sex, which is really self-preservation, definitely, so on and so forth. And what I've also noticed is that people make decisions based on validation. And so, what do I mean by that? What I mean is that people are heavily motivated by being validated. Now, some of the people who do a lot of work on self, they tend to be motivated, validated within themselves. Like these are the more successful people, the people who are, these are the people who say, like, I don't really care about what other people think. Although there's always some slight thing that cares about what people think, because shame is also a motivator as well. But you have people who are motivated by validation outside. Like, so initially, a lot of this comes from like your parents. So you're motivated by what your mother thinks. You're possibly motivated by what your father thinks, grandmother, close family members. Then it may move on to family, friends, and then so on, and just keeps going on and on and on. Pastors, religion, so on and so forth. So my thought process, like, well, you can really tell a lot about a person by what they are actually validated for. Like what where are they looking for validation? Which means that who these people who are they validating? Oh man, I'm getting feedback. Forgive us if you get the feedback as well. Um, so if you're validated, you can really tell who's influencing people, like where their influences come from, exactly how they're going to move, regardless of what they say. Pay attention to what people do, right? Like people will say a lot. We will say that we're validated, self-validated, or we're self-motivated. However, if you observe people, you'll notice that that's not the case. Almost, I got the 95-5 rule. 95% of the time. 95% of the time, people are outside valid. They seek outside validation. That's why you have people who move with the crowd, even though this might not be something that they want to do. But they look around and they say, well, within our culture, within our subculture, this is what's accepted. This is how I would be looked at. And so because of this is how it's accepted and this is how I want to be, and I want to be accepted by the group, I'm going to do what they call groupthink. I'm going to do things that will be validated by the group. All right, that was my thought process on it, brother. What do you think? I know you were in and out.
I definitely would agree with you. Especially about validation. I think that goes back to. Are you able to catch me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm gonna see if I can turn up my
Audio.
yeah, audio because you're a little low.
Okay. So I definitely would say that some of what this is EQ, right? Emotional intelligence. I don't know if everyone understands emotional intelligence. You can probably go back a few episodes. You can check that out. But there's like two sides to emotional intelligence. One of them is self awareness, being aware of yourself and being able to use yourself. There it is. Emotional intelligence, the measure of personal ability to recognize, understand, manage, and influence emotions, both their own and others. So I think that's that one stage, and what we're discussing right now when it comes down to validation, the more aware you are and conscious you are of yourself and confident you are of yourself, the more you do a self validation, because it's really not about what other people think, because you have that confidence, that awareness, you know who you are. And I do like that you said that a lot of successful people, because it also lends to a different narrative, a different story. Some people look at success from different perspectives, different viewpoints. Like you have to be rich or a millionaire to be successful. Well, I like to take it the way that Jim Rohn stated. He said, uh, success doesn't mean that. He said that if a man says that he wants to sell all he has and go out to the woods and feed the squirrels, and he does that, he's a smashing success. And I love that analogy, because it's like it is the ability to perform your own designed vision and complete it, fulfill it. So whatever you desire to be, do, or become, and you do that, then you are successful in your own right. So getting back to this validation, well, success and validation, I believe, are linked together, right? We validate ourselves based off the successes that we've had. We just don't call everything a success, because people link it to, you know, I want to be a successful businessman. I want to be a successful millionaire. I want to be a successful, gosh, man, I'm having a rough time, y'all, with everything going on over here. Gosh, no, ah, it is what it is. So it's just like, all of these things. I want to be a successful basketball player, successful football player. Well, can I be a successful teacher? Yes. How about a mother or a father? Well, I can't be a mother, but I can be a successful father or a successful husband, a successful friend. I can be a successful human being, a successful man. Well, what does that look like? Well, that is my choice. It's my choice. But then the other side of the emotional quotient is this. There is a piece of it that we formulate based off of our social environment, right? So it's, how do I think other people perceive I am? And so managing that has a different type of feeling.
right? And this is that inward outward circle that Mike was leading into. You know, inward being what I think about myself, and outward being what do I think other people think about me. And I think that that's the key, y'all, because it's really not what other people think about you or say about you. It's what you think that means and how much value you give to their thoughts, which you don't know, or their words, which you may not even understand. You don't even know where it's coming from. I took it upon myself, and I think I mentioned this in a show maybe last year, that I had gotten to a point where there was a certain individual that I would work with, and that individual had a way of saying smart aleck comments that he would do in such a way that you wouldn't know unless you really paid attention that he was actually putting you down. And so I would catch him, and I'd be like, you know, I catch him. And so what I started doing is he would, like, I was wearing glasses one day. He said, "Oh man, look at you, man. Look at those new glasses you got on there. Make you look really smart." And I would say, yes, I am really smart. And so I just subtle cues like, yes, number one, yeah, I accept that because it's true. Whether it's they make me look smart or I am smart and I just look good with glasses on. Let me tell you this: any positive thing that you want to throw at me, it's true.
Right.
I don't need to validate your words. I already validated within myself. So anything that you can put, even though there's a spin, I know there's a spin because I know this individual. I know there's a spin, but you know what? Yes, you're right. I do look good, don't I? And these glasses look good on me too. I make my glasses look so good. You're right. Gosh, man. Are you okay? All right. I'll see you later. And I just walk away and I leave it back with him. And I think that that is a graduation. It's a graduation. It took me a while to get there, y'all. It took me a while to get there. I know that I may have said that and it may have came across like with a little bit of ego, but believe me, Joel says it took me years to develop that type of mindset. That was not something that just happened. So it's not about ego at all. It is about me accepting me and
But
believing me.
and that's the point, brother. I love that because because it could almost seem, because you just mentioned it as if, oh, okay, I just got over what it was saying, but you had to be real with yourself because you said it took me a while to get there. Because if it didn't, then that phrase that the brother said, whatever it was, those glasses make you look smart, and it may have been coming from a condescending thought process, or whatever, wherever it was that he had. Like, who cares about him? Is that you
Yes.
understood for yourself that, okay, it struck a chord in me. And I think that's where a lot of people before you worked on it, that there was something there. And so you had to look within yourself and say, well, there's something there. Okay, you know what? How I'm going to, and these I'm sure there's more steps than what we're saying. But I understand is that this person said something. There's a stimulus, that's the stimulus. Then I responded in a certain way in regards to it, to where I'm going to be able to accept the goodness out of what was said and not even really care about what else this guy has going on within himself, because he said it to you. And if it was condescending, I wasn't there, but let's just say in his mind, the guy better than me. If it was condescending, or if there was some type of slight really when he mentioned it on his part, he's got a whole bunch of things that he's doing within himself, or he has a whole bunch of things that he has going on within himself, to where he needs to kind of bring someone else down in order to make him feel better. So if that's, I need to what would be the word? I need to devalue this person in order to see value within myself, because now I'm smarter than this person because I can make these little quips, and and it makes sense, and whether they get it or not, like it. And this happens quite often, especially when you start to deal with people who believe that they're, and they are, some of them are, now let me not say they're not, who tend to be intellectually, you know, they come they come from this, they believe that they're more intellectually capable than other people, so, but point I'm trying to get to is if you can do this, and this is a lot of people aren't going to get there. If you can get to that 5% of people who are self-validated, and there are steps to get there. There could be work to be done. Then the more you'll go through life and be successful. I love what you said with Jim Rohn, but when you said it, automatically think about Earl Nightingale, and I had to go look it up, where they said being successful is the progressive realization of a
That's it.
worthy ideal.
Of a worthy ideal. That's
Yeah,
it.
you had me thinking about Earl Nightingale because that's part of that. I think we did. I don't know if you did it. I know I did it, where it was like 30 minutes of listening to that. The Secret, is that what it was called? The
It
Secret.
is a secret. I didn't do. I listened to that one, but I didn't go through it. But Jim Rohn in that same breath, I couldn't remember it exactly, so I didn't want to quote it. But he quoted Earl Nightingale right after he talked about the if a man wants to go and feed squirrels, whatever, whatever. So it was just I just love the simplicity of Jim Rohn. I
Yeah,
love it, and I think everybody loves Jim Rohn right now because it
yeah,
seems like he is like on fire on YouTube and everywhere else. But yeah, go ahead, brother, because I
yeah.
like what you're saying.
Yeah, shouts out to Jim. Guys, if you here are some real easy, resourceful people that you need to check out. Definitely check out Jim Rome. Check out Earl Nightingale. Check out the
Brian
Carnegie,
Tracy.
Brian Tracy. And really, if you go back and you look at it, all of these were precursors to ultimately like the Tony Robbins. Like Tony Robbins, I want to say his mentor was Jim Rome. I want to say one of Tony Ryan, any one of them, because I'm sure he's had multiple people, but Jim Rohn, and you'll start to see like the generational of how these thought processes go. Norman Vincent Peale is also a good one, so check him out as well. Um, so getting back to this, so if you are one of the 5% of people who's begin to validate yourself, meaning that I don't need, I love my mother, but whatever my mother says really doesn't affect me because I'm validating myself. I love my father, and whatever, but whatever he has doesn't really affect me because I'm validating myself. I take what they have to say. I'm listening, but now I'm able to frame things within my own frame of mind as saying, well, I'm validating myself. If you can take that out into the world, things change. These are the people who are actually trailblazers because everyone else is following the crowd. Everyone is waiting to see if something works. Everyone is waiting to see if it's acceptable. These people who are self-validating, they're kind of saying, you know what? I'm just gonna go out and do my own thing. I don't care about the views. That's not one of my KPIs. I really don't care about the what else do people do look at? They look at their views, they look at their followers, they look at their subscribers. I'm not saying there's not a place for it because at some point in time you do want to have some type of measure or something a standard to measure against. You know what I mean? Like saying, okay, well, money is a good one for most people. Well, I need X amount of money or whatever, but what is this standard based on? But if before all that, if it's just based on I'm working, going towards the realization, like we said, Earl Nightingale said, if I'm progressing toward the realization of this worthy ideal, my ideal, or the ideal that was given to me, like if I'm working towards it, I am successful. That you can always go back to that when everything else isn't happening. Like because there's nothing wrong with having nice things. There's nothing wrong with having money, but to have that feeling of I'm working towards this thing. If you can always, that's the hope, that's the faith, that's the thing that you kind of just you want to go back to. You want to lay your head down and say I'm working towards it because let's think about it on the flip side. What if you aren't working towards a worthy ideal? What if you're actually working towards something that's actually tearing down humankind, which is having a negative effect? A drug dealer, and you're working towards it, but you're getting a lot of money. But when you lay your head down at night, you don't feel good about this thing. Here you are progressing towards something, but it's not a worthy ideal. It's actually tearing your community apart. It's tearing families apart, so on and so forth. And this happens to some people. But you're collecting this a bunch of money, and even though you're laying down on the finest pillows, the finest thread counts, the finest mattresses, the finest everything, you still can't find comfort. You're flying in a private jet. You still got your thoughts surrounding it because it's not a worthy ideal. And you have to reconcile that at some point in time. And normally when we reconcile things is apart from this money. It's apart from the views. It's apart from the subscribers. It's when we're sitting at home or we have time to ourselves. We're reconciling within ourselves. Like, is what we're doing
Mm.
something that's laudable? Is this a laudable effort? Is this a laudable goal that we're moving towards? And I think a lot of people, and you know what, you really start to see a lot of that in social media, or really in entertainers and celebrities. You'll see a celebrity who you thought was living like the high life. You know, I'm a date myself. You saw them on Robin Leach's The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, with the big homes and the big cars and the notoriety and they're living the life. The caviars and champagne dreams is what I think Robin Lee spoke about. And then you find out, oh, this person was miserable. They're depressed. They're on, they need to take drugs in order to keep a certain kind of face. They got, their prescription or otherwise. They're self-medicating. So these things are happening. But that's because they're not self-validating. They're living on the values of other people, other things that don't necessarily align with where they are, probably spiritually, mentally, and otherwise.
Mm. Man, that was heavy, man. That was heavy. Um, Let me go back to where you had stated something about young people and about how if they can start validating themselves and take that out into the world with them. I'd like to say this, being a father, it's our job to teach our children how to do this. This may not have been something that was passed down to us. It may not. See, there are some things that are understood now that just simply were done before. And it doesn't mean that we just do it just because we know how to do it anymore. Now that we have a greater deal of understanding, and because we're in an this is an information driven world that we live in, it behooves us as parents to explain things because our children want explanation. And with technology as it is now, there's almost no reason for anybody to not be able to get some type of answer. There's no reason. We can study anything at the tip of our fingers, from cell phones to computers. We can gain some level of understanding. Resources are abundant. You can find somebody who knows something about whatever it is. And it's not so difficult anymore. Really decades ago, there was a time when you had to go to another city to meet with a professor to learn about a specific subject. And yeah, there still is some of that stuff going on now, especially in niche types of professions and whatnots. But there's a large amount of information that is readily available and is free. It's free. So when it comes down to it, it's like when we start talking about our children, they don't have to grow up thinking that they need to be validated by somebody else, but we need to teach them that. It's the same thing with young girls. Girls need fathers that can say, hey, you're beautiful. Hey, you're smart. You're gorgeous. You're going to be something amazing. They need fathers that'll take them out on a date. Hey, this is what it feels like to be treated out. Here's a ring. This is what it feels like to receive a gift. Value your own self. Value your body. Value your mind. Value your goals. Don't let somebody just toss anything your way, and because you've never seen a piece of gold before, because you've never gotten a compliment, because nobody ever told you your hair is pretty, now you're willing to do whatever because of the way you feel. Young men need to know, hey man, that you are strong, but you don't have to be stupid. There was a time, there was these words that were shared, said you better be strong. Said, if you're stupid, you better be strong. Now, I'm probably misquoting that a little bit, something like that. You know, if you're stupid, you better be strong. And the thought process behind that was, at least you can handle yourself, protect yourself.
Mm.
But I had a conversation with my son the other day. Very simple conversation. I needed him to do something for the house, and it required somebody going up to the roof. Now, I'm okay with my boy going up to the roof. It's 24 feet up, but I'm okay with it because I taught him how to use a ladder, how to bunt a ladder, how to check them for a ladder angle, and how to climb a ladder. I taught him all the basics, and then I walked him through it. Then I did it with him. So I'm really okay with him doing that. I just need there to be somebody with him. And he thought to himself, because he's 14 and testosterone is strong, right? He thought, oh, I can do it. But when he got on that ladder, reality hit. When he got about 8 feet up, reality hit. 12 feet, reality hit. And I'll never forget talking with him before he had got on that ladder. He said, I ain't scared. I'm not scared. I said, son, it's not about that S word. It's about the other S word. It's not about being scared. It's about being smart.
Hmm.
There's a difference. And like teaching our young men, it's not about being scared. It's about being smart. You don't have to throw that punch. You don't have to grill that dude. You don't have to do these things all the time. When I was coming up, I didn't know that. So I didn't know that you could talk your way out of arguments and conversations and fights. So I just got in a fight instead. I thought, you ain't hard, man, if you talk your way out. Yeah, well, you know what? There's another S word. It's called stupidity. And because I leaned into the I'm going to solve this with my fist, I also leaned into in-school suspension, out-of-school suspension, and expulsion. Then there came another S word, schooling, which I lost out on. Not that I don't want to talk about the school system right now, but my whole point was is that this education was not at the forefront because I was too busy trying to understand what does it mean to be a man. Who's going to check the box that says I am a man? Who's going to validate that Joel has become a man? Well, I don't know who's going to do it, so I'll do it myself. And meanwhile, I was nowhere near being a man, checking the box every single day. So as young people, as parents, it behooves us. Validate your child. Don't let them go out into the world and self-validate based off of some hypocrisy that states this is what it takes to be a child, or even more so, this is what it takes to be a black man. Yeah, I brought it there. No, I feel like I'm on a soapbox when I went there. So I want to ease on back because I felt like I
Nah,
went somewhere with
you
that.
know, but you got to go there. It has to be said, right? And I spoke earlier in regards to the really because black culture is a subculture. So I'm not gonna because we've already digressed. So I'm not gonna go there with the main culture versus mainstream versus subculture. But black culture is a subculture, and it's really a. I heard someone say it's a dysfunctional culture. Someone has to say it. So I'll be the one to say it, and I'm not the first to say it, but maybe this is the first time they've heard it coming from someone. The subculture of Black America is a dysfunctional subculture. Go back and look at all of any of the stats, and you'll see Black people at the bottom. It just is what it is, and some of the most highly educated, which is kind of people don't quite understand that. Um, so the presence of, in this case, a man being around and to validate your child, and really that's just within the presence of it, because some of the things you don't even have to say to the child, but because you spoke about explaining it to them, but also him watching your testimony about it, because it's one thing for him not to get her, but to see you that he subconsciously respects, because that's most children at the beginning of their life, they can't really separate themselves. And this is where you, at some point in time, you're going to have to, this is where the self-validation comes in. But at some point, initially, we can't separate, your mother and your father from yourself. You all are just one thing. It's this one thing. So there's going to be a difference in a fatherless household where there's no father, and so he's really, him and the mother are just one, versus when you have that healthy balance of a mother and a father, and we kind of see those two things that we can't separate ourselves. So, and eventually you'll get to a point where you validate yourself. That's why I think our experiences are somewhat different, because and I always thought it was weird, was that when we're coming up and we're coming up as adolescents, there was that culture. But I also grew up in my own culture where I had my father, who was, he was in and out, but he was at some point he was there, and my mother was there as well, to where a lot of the things before my actions, there was a lot of thought put into it. Like, is this the time to fight? And if I don't fight, like, what are the ramifications of that? Or what are the ramifications if I do? Or what is it like? There was a lot of thought put into almost everything it was that I did, because I didn't necessarily need to do it in order to say that I was a man. I automatically knew that. You know what I mean? Like, it was already there. So it was just like, so if I did fight somebody, there was a reason for it. It was like, oh, okay, I need to do this because this is gonna happen. Or I don't need to do this. So regardless of what you say to me, you can call what you called me. Oh yeah, that's funny. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go on about my business. Oh, what you call me now? Oh, okay. I need to assert something. Like, there was always this thought that there was a response to it. Eh, and this is during the adolescent period. As we got older, as I got older, it was even more of a response. It was just like, I don't need you to validate me being a man. That's why I don't listen to half the things that a lot of people say. Where it's just like, well, you're not a man if you let's let's st- let's stop it right now. You know what I mean? Like, you can't tell me that. I know who I am. I know what it is. You know what I mean? But that also, there were steps to definitely to this point, but it kind of always was there. So that having that father in the home, having you in the home for Jonah is and you'll see the difference from the product. You'll see the results of it, because I see the results of it. It's almost night and day now. Me actually having a chance to observe it from afar, the fatherless home versus the homes without a father, for both men and women. So, because it goes beyond just being a boy, but both men and women. So I don't even. It's not for me. It's not even a conversation. Like, if we even having a conversation about whether or not there's an effect of fatherless homes, then I kind of just blank out, and I'm not. I'll probably exit from the conversation. Um, but the testimony of it, the presence of it, that's also a part of the validation part of it. You start to see there's less false bravado when you start to have this validation thing. Some of the things don't even need to be said. I spent the time this week talking to a couple of people, but there's one conversation in particular where this person, you can tell, is externally validating, but they know it all. So this person is just telling me about stuff. He's just saying, this is how it go, this is how it go, because a man and this and that. And I'm just I'm just real quiet and listening, and I'm just like, like, this person doesn't even know what they're talking about. You get to a point of delusion at some point in time, because you're always, because he, and then you can see, like, where he's checking in to see if I'm agreeing with him.
That
That
is,
he's
yes.
checking he's checking in to see if I'm giving him a nod or I'm giving him something, but I'm just quiet, I'm trying to
Have
keep
you
this
have you ever just done that? Just like not say nothing, don't shake, no response whatsoever, blank face, just
blank face.
like you on your
Okay.
own, brother.
Yeah.
Either sink or swim. You on your own. You on your own.
So here's that. So that what you just mentioned. Here are some things that you can tell, because, and this is for sales and this is for communication, for people who are looking for external validation. Um, they're always checking for you to affirm what they have to say. So they're always going to check to say, so, right, correct. Like, what do you they want you to go along with this thought process, whether it is that you agree or not. And I'm not saying that you just disagree for the sake of disagreeing. However, they're checking for these things. I like to start, then I'll start to say, well, I hear what you're saying, but in my experience, in my experience, or I don't really have that experience because it's not necessarily the truth, right? This is not a truth. It's just it's a it's how you perceive things, and that thing yeah, it can easily be changed. Your perception, once you get the new information, and if you're open to the new information, more so for the fact. So the more that you self validate, the more that you're open to new information. Because the question that a person should ask, especially if they're self validating, is that, listen, what do you think about that, brother? Like, not now I'm open. When I say something like that, and I say it to the brother all the time, well, what do you think about that? And the brother can either correct me, or he can say, or he can give me more, not necessarily correct me, but give me more information. And if he got to correct me, he got to correct me as well. I'm open to that as well. So but I'm also looking for more information. Where did I get this wrong? Like, where am I seeing this wrong? What is your purview? How do you see it? These are the type of questions that we need to start asking in order to become more because even though I'm asking for his opinion, it doesn't lessen me, the validation of me validating myself. It's just saying, like, here's where I'm coming from. Where did I get this wrong? Like what about this am I thinking? Am I missing? I love this too. Am I missing something? I said that a lot during family court when I was talking to people. Like, if I'm talking to my attorney. I'm like, am I missing something here? Like is there something that I'm missing? And wait for them to fill me in. Because oftentimes in family court, a lot of this stuff is semantics. You know what I mean? Like, well, you said this, and that's not necessarily what it means, or you're communicating this incorrectly. If you communicate it this way, then this changes the whole thought. It could change the whole thought process. It definitely changes the whole thought process when you're writing stuff down. It's the semantics really come into play then. But these are some of the things that we have to do. But I love the thought that you brought in, brother, because I don't want to stray too far away from it. Was you and your testimony, or in your given explanations to the younger people, because I think as we start to grow up, we start to look around and look at the world, and we start to say, well, especially as a younger person, I want to follow this crowd. These are the cool people. This is what the culture tells me is the cool people. But you and I both know in the short amount of time that we've lived on this earth that a lot of things change. Because a lot of the things that we're talking about, now weren't talked about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Definitely not 50, 60 years ago, right?
Yeah, for sure. And also it's about how easy it is to get information. And I'm just saying information, whether it's false information or accurate, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. There was a time when they didn't talk, they spoke about sex in schools to prepare, sex education, birds and the bees, this type of stuff. And it was always male, female. And it came, somewhere around the teenage years, early teens, or late preteens, is somewhere around there it came. But now it's an open gamut, and it happens much earlier. It happens while one digit years, well, there's 7, 8, 9, and
Mm-hmm.
you start to hear this, and guidance counselors are starting to help children to identify. And it's like all of this information is going down. So for us in this day, it changes things, I think, because information is readily available and it's given so soon by so many different people with so many different perspectives. Like the worldview has split and split and split and split and split again. And there's so many things that make a huge difference, I believe, in the way that a child is groomed and grows. I mean, I guess I'm at that age that when I say things like when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I guess I hit that age finally that you're an old person now when you say when I was coming up, when I was growing up. And it's like, when I was coming up, it wasn't that way. It was, a man was a man, a woman was a woman. That was the end of it.
Yep.
You know, you're a liar, you're a liar. You're not a liar, you're not a liar. You're a thief, you're a thief. You're not a thief, you're not a thief. It was simplicity. And so I could look at my mom or my dad and say they are hard workers. I'm going to be a hard worker. Simplicity. Now you look at your parents and they're on a computer and you think they're playing video games because you're 5 years old and all you know is your tablet. You're 6 years old, all you know is your tablet. You're 7 years old, all you know is your tablet. And you're like, when I get older, I'm going to play on computers like my dad. They may not associate that with remote work. They may not understand that. And that might be something that you have to explain to them. It's just these different variations now because of information and how readily acceptable it is, or not acceptable, but how easy it is to get. And so that's the piece that that's where I am with young people. It's like they do need figures in front of them that are doing the thing in front of them, like old school way, and that are also interjecting communication. And I think that validation is very important, especially at a young age. There's a scripture that says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they shall not depart from it. What is that? Well, to train is to teach someone to the point of changing a behavior. And how does behavior stay modified or change? Validation. Somebody has to know that the modification inside of their behavior is now the accepted one. These are this is age-old stuff, but it works. It works. And if you don't validate your young people, I don't know how we went all the way down to, or how I did. I won't say we, I ain't going to pull you into this, brother. But I don't know how I keep on going back down into this with young people. But I will say that it still happens for adults, because many adults have not been validated on who they are and what they are. They have not been told that they are good people. Or external validation is super important, especially at a young age, because that's where you learn the scales of what you validate yourself on. We don't know how to validate ourselves. We're born into this world and just like putty. Make me what you will. And then at a certain point in time, we start to realize I am what I am. And we start to accept a certain persona, who we are. And then we start to develop who we desire to be. Don't miss that opportunity with these young people to help form inside of them those good. Can you gave that quote earlier today? Worthy
Undertaken
undertakings.
or
Don't miss
progressive realization of a worthy ideal.
don't miss the opportunity to validate worthy ideals within inside of your children. Even if it doesn't come directly from you. Like my son can go over there and be with Uncle Mike. And he comes back, he's like, Uncle Mike says that if you do this a certain way, and this and that, and I'm like, I look at him like, yeah, that's it. That's a validation. Because the reason why he brought that to me, and the reason why he was hanging on every word that next comes out of my mouth, is because he wants to know, should I continue to believe that? And too many times we are blowing off opportunities to either validate or to I want to say disvalidate. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate word, but we've missed that opportunity. And your child walks in the room and they're like, oh, so and so said such and such at school. And we're like, yeah, whatever, because we're busy. Don't be too busy too long. You be too busy, they be too gone.
Mm. That's a
Brother,
that
let
sound
me
like
get
that's a that's a
let me get out of this. Oh
that
my
sound
gosh.
that sound like a rap song. Don't be busy too long. You be too busy and they'll be gone.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I think this was a good conversation. I guess we'll wrap it up at now at this time. Appreciate you all. Remember this I think validation is so serious, man. It's so big. It's so big. When I spoke about the validation at the beginning, I was like, well, validation and who a person validates or how a person validates, that shows it influences them. So if they're
Yeah,
so
yes.
so if they're getting their validation from outside sources, and you don't even know who these outside sources are, because as you mentioned, now this information is so readily available. So if you're not validating them as parents and attempting to mold them in the right way, then they're being validated by how a lot of people came up through the culture, the subculture. And if your culture is dysfunctional, if your culture is filled with, it's all about
Whatever.
hypersexualization, yeah,
Yeah.
hypersexualization, violence, the love of money, whatever it is, like, this is what's influencing them. And by the time you try to step back in, it's too late, because now this is what they're using as a litmus, as opposed to not even coming from Uncle Mike. But if he goes to his father and says, I've been thinking about this, whatever it is, and because we're too busy or we're thinking about something else, or whatever the case may be, then they start to look for somebody else to validate their ideals or whatever it is, or to invalidate them. And now all of a sudden, these are the things and people that are influencing them. So it's important and it's even important because this is going to happen anyways, because they're looking for outside, so they're looking to fit in, so to speak. So me and Elijah had a conversation the other day, matter of fact, on the hurricane night, and I'll end my part with this. And we were actually in the car because we lost the power. So I was like, all right, let's go to the car, let's charge our phones. On, what was it, Wednesday night? And I said, man, who are the most? We were talking about rappers, and I was like, well, let's go through. Let's see who are the top five most, prominent rappers right now. And we were like, well, how are we gonna come up with this idea? Like, how are we gonna figure out who are the top five? Because he's gonna say some names that I don't know who they are, and I'm gonna say some names, and he's gonna be like, who? NWA? What? You know what I mean? No Limit, Master P, Cash Money. Like, what is that? So anyway, so how we decided to come up with this highly scientific research that we did in the middle of the night was, who do we have that's on both of our playlists? So I would
Mm.
say, because I'm such an old, I'm triple his age, right? I'm his age inverse. He's 14, I'm 41. So if I have these people on my playlist, that's how we're going to come up with, like, who. So how many people do we have on our playlist? So we found out that we had four people that we both listened to, and I was really proud because one of the people that was on his playlist was he shouldn't have known about unless it was through me. So we came up with these four people, and then we started saying, okay, well, this, and that, a third, and then we started to have a chance to discredit each other's playlist. Like, well, this person shouldn't be on this playlist because he's not such and such. But it was just in this conversation and this communication where I wasn't looking down on his thoughts and picks, because God knows, our predecessors did that to us when we were younger. My parents would look at me like, you listen to that music, like, that's trash, not knowing that this music was really influencing me. And I look at their music and be like, you made me listen to it, but it was nothing that I would listen to on my own. But it was good. It was a good back and forth. And through this, and me putting away this role of, you're gonna do listen to what I listen to, or what you're listening to is terrible, but just coming up with information, going back and forth, saying this is wrong, that not excuse me, this is not what I like, this doesn't make any sense. And just having that conversation, that communication, I thought was very worthwhile. So that was me validating him as a person and him being able to make his own decisions. However, this is how your father feels about it. So that was an awesome little game that we played.
I love that, man. You develop even more connection I think that's important. Many times, uh, same thing happened to me when I was younger. Don't do this, don't do that, don't listen to this, don't do listen to that. And before you know, it's like, well, you know what? I don't want to listen to you
Yep. Yeah.
because you're the
You
only
old.
person that says all of those things that I don't want to hear. So if I just don't hear you, I can get rid of all of it at one time. And so yeah, I mean, validation is super important. It can go terribly wrong, or it can go extremely right. So just think about it in the long run, I guess. I mean, like what you were doing, it seems like the long run of that thing was you made a greater. You took your communication to form greater connection.
Yeah.
That connection will last much longer than those rappers do.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Guys, love you, appreciate you. We'll see you next week. Let's not have any more natural disasters between now and next week. How about how about that? Let's have a quiet week as far as that's concerned.
Put that in the atmosphere. I like it.
All right, appreciate you all. Peace. Oh, there
All
it is.
right.